paths crossed in college, and then we bonded in marriage, and our lives were filled with joy. After college, we had good careers and started our lives together. We were fortunate to both have substantial incomes, so financial stability was never an issue for us. My wife worked for a small business, and I held a position in a large corporation. Unexpectedly, my boss left the company, leaving a position that needed someone to take his place. I was the sole individual with the expertise to manage the department effectively. Consequently, I experienced a significant salary increase, superior bonuses, enhanced benefits, and a comprehensive package of perks. By the age of 28, my income was likely over 3 times greater than my wife's. During that very year, we welcomed our first daughter into the world, and 2 years later, our second child arrived. My wife, thanks to her job at her father's company, had the flexibility to pursue various opportunities and performed admirably. Approximately 5 years ago, an unforeseen tragedy occurred when my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly. This placed my mother-in-law and wife in a challenging predicament. They had to decide whether to sell the company or take on the responsibility of running it themselves. Given my mother-in-law's lack of knowledge about the business operations, my wife stepped up and offered to take charge. Once my wife assumed control of the company, it continued to thrive just as it had under her father's leadership. As a result, she received a substantial salary boost, even surpassing my own earnings. I felt a great sense of pride for her achievements, as transitioning from a regular employee to overseeing an entire company is an impressive feat. Anyway, our daughter was suffering because we weren't home much. My wife and I discussed the possibility of one of us staying home. She stated that my company would do just fine without me, while her company could face potential risks if she left. I agreed with what she said, and as a result, I quit my job and took on the role of stay-at-home dad and husband. I took responsibility for all aspects of our household, from caring for our daughters to cooking, cleaning, repairing, running errands, and anything else that needed attention. Upon returning from work, I showered my wife with care and attention, and things were going fine for a while. However, about a year ago, things changed. My wife was always very grateful for my efforts. Recently, she has exhibited a rather harsh attitude, frequently making comments like, "Do you even contribute anything?" Or "Why don't you try doing some real work?" It's disheartening because I put in a tremendous amount of effort daily to ensure she doesn't have to lift a finger when she returns home. Tutorial. I used to have a regular job, but I made the decision to leave it to focus on raising and caring for our daughters, as well as running the household. It is important to note that my wife has always had a strong sexual appetite. However, she has stopped initiating intimate moments, and when I suggest it, she is rarely in the mood. This change in her behavior was perplexing. Every time, I gave up trying to initiate intimacy, attributing her disinterest to stress and other factors. In an attempt to improve our relationship, I redoubled my efforts, but unfortunately nothing worked. This past weekend, my eldest daughter had a softball game. I took charge of getting everything prepared, and together we attended the game. While at the event, I decided to record a video to share with my parents, who live in another state and don't have the opportunity to see my daughters frequently. I left my phone behind, so I approached my wife and asked if I could borrow hers, since she had been using it all day. I thought it would be a good opportunity for her to take a break from it. She handed me her phone and mentioned that she was going to grab a drink and a snack, then got up. I start making a video with my daughter. All of a sudden, a message comes up on some app, and I'm shocked at what I see. My wife and a colleague from her work, who's younger than her, are corresponding, sending each other videos and photos, talking about what a great time they had together. He insinuates that I am not capable of getting a serious job to support my family, and sadly, my wife agrees with him. I was just in shock. I was overwhelmed with anger. I heard my wife approaching, so I quickly closed the app and began recording. During the ride back home and when we arrived, my wife attempted to engage in conversation, but I wasn't in the mood to talk. Eventually, we both ended up lying in bed together for the first time. I assumed they hadn't seen each other in a while. I said I wasn't in the mood, to which she replied, "Then you can sleep on the couch." I got up and lay down on the couch. I feel lost and don't know what to do. My wife has been the most important person in my life, and my daughters are my whole world to me, but I feel like everything is falling apart. Briefly, my wife and I met in college and got married. After her father's passing, she assumed control of the family business, and I took on the role of a stay-at-home dad. Unfortunately, I recently discovered that she has been unfaithful to me. It's worth noting that I do have evidence of the cheating, as I sent screenshots of the conversation to my phone. So now onto the first update. Firstly, I wanted to clarify that I do possess all the text messages, pictures, videos, and any other evidence related to the situation. Secondly, I should clarify that I don't have any ownership stake in the company. It's a 50-50 partnership between my wife and my mother-in-law. Thirdly, I haven't been able to sleep in our bed. Instead, I've been staying in the guest bedroom every night, and that's where I'll continue to sleep. As for my decision, no matter what, I decided to get a divorce. I contacted a law firm in another city this morning to maintain confidentiality and avoid possible leaks. Fortunately, they were able to set up an appointment for me this morning. I went to a law firm, and to make a long story short, the lawyer there is very qualified. After showing him the evidence I had, he assured me that my wife's position in the divorce would be greatly weakened, especially since I left my job to take care of our daughters. Her absence, infidelity, and another man's priority over our family would work in my favor, and this case would be easy to win. Basically, the attorney laid out a plan where we would secure child support and child support. In addition, he suggested that we could apply for additional financial support, given that I am no longer considered competitive in today's job market. Such support could help me get additional education to improve my chances of employment. The attorney advised not to work until the divorce proceedings were finalized. He explained that having a job at that time could put me at a disadvantage. He also asked if I was interested in pursuing full custody. I mentioned that I don't mind my wife occasionally visiting our daughters on weekends, but I would like custody. The attorney explained that her cheating in our marital home could play in my favor, as having a stranger come into the home poses a potential danger to the girls and could be considered as evidence of her guilt in a trial. So I have decided to seek full custody by allowing her to take the girls on weekends, maybe twice a month at most. I absolutely forbid men from being around my daughters, and that there will be consequences if I find otherwise. I just don't want that kind of influence around my girls. He eventually advised me to maintain silence until the necessary legal documents are prepared. Once everything is ready, he will arrange for someone to serve her with the papers, and it will be specified that she is required to vacate the home. He anticipates having this process completed sometime next week. He convinced me to keep quiet and realizing that it was difficult and emotional. He emphasized, just keep quiet until the whole divorce process is finalized. You have every right to voice your opinion when it's over, but until then, refrain from speaking out. He advised me to maintain a semblance of normalcy. He stressed the importance of avoiding conflicts, not creating any issues, sleeping separately, and refraining from intimate relations. I inquired about the reasoning behind these instructions, to which he replied, "Trust me, just follow my advice." I've now returned home and am preparing for dinner while trying my best to act and appear as usual. I'll be keeping up the pretense that everything is fine until she receives the divorce papers next week. He suggested that I undergo an ETD test and also consider a DNA test for my daughters. When I inquired about the reasons behind this advice, he explained that incidents like this are quite rare and often the first time they've occurred. For needless to say, it was painful to hear, and it has left me deeply concerned. Now on to the second update. I've been going through a difficult period, and I've been feeling quite down. I want to mention that I've discussed these posts with my lawyer, although I didn't provide too many specific details. My lawyer did mention that I can post as long as I keep things brief and avoid being overly specific to protect legal interests. So as I mentioned, I'll keep it brief and not delve into too many details for now. Let's begin with the test. I managed to get an STT test for myself and a paternity test for my daughters. I'm relieved to report that I'm free from any diseases, which didn't come as a big surprise, given the lack of intimacy with my wife over the past year. Now for the one that I'm sure most of you are curious about, the results of the test for my two daughters. The question on everyone's mind, am I the father? I want to make it clear that I will always be their dad, no matter the results. However, I'm here to confirm that, yes, I am their biological father. I've never felt such relief and happiness to know that I am indeed their dad. I never thought I'd have to question it, but that's where we found ourselves. They've got full temporary custody for the time being. At this point, my wife is no longer in the house. My attorney arranged things so that I could pick up my daughters and have her removal from the house legally processed. It was not the most pleasant process. She was served with the divorce papers at her workplace, and from what I've heard, it was a difficult situation. However, as I mentioned earlier, I'll hold off on the details for now. My daughters are aware of the situation. My eldest understands that we are separating, and she has a friend whose parents went through a similar situation. My oldest daughter has witnessed the situation with her friend's parents and is understandably upset about our impending separation. She has been pleading with me to let mommy come home, to ensure they have the support they need. I'll be arranging for them to see a child therapist as advised by my lawyer. This will help them better understand and cope with the situation. My youngest simply yearns for her mother to return and misses her terribly. It's incredibly painful for me, and it's hard not to feel like a terrible father in moments like these. I worry that my daughters might harbor resentment towards me. Sometimes, I even wonder if I should have tolerated their mother's infidelity to preserve our family unit. I want to provide a brief update on recent developments. Firstly, I spent Thanksgiving with my soon-to-be ex-wife and mother-in-law. I want to clarify that this decision was solely for the sake of our daughters. I ensured, with the guidance of my lawyer, that this gathering was focused exclusively on the girls and not an attempt at reconciliation, which had been addressed beforehand. Before Thanksgiving, I had a meeting with my mother-in-law. During our conversation, we had a fairly mutual discussion, primarily centered around how we intend to handle things concerning my daughters. Additionally, my mother-in-law shared some information with me about my soon-to-be ex-wife. It turns out that my soon-to-be ex-wife was cheated on by her high school boyfriend, which was news to me since I wasn't aware she had dated anyone back then. According to my mother-in-law, this guy came from one of those families, and they had advised her to steer clear of him. One night, she caught him with another girl. During her college years, she dated a few guys, but it was clear to her that these relationships would not be long-lasting. However, that all changed when she met me. My mother-in-law admitted that she immediately saw the potential in me to be a future son-in-law. She regretted her daughter's past behaviors and assured me that she would take steps to prevent further problems, especially with the divorce. As Thanksgiving approached, my mother-in-law invited me to have dinner with the girls. I inquired if she would be attending, which the mother-in-law confirmed. I declined to attend the dinner if she was there. Having another holiday party for the girls' sake, she suggested that I consult with my lawyer about the matter, understanding that their advice would be crucial. Upon doing so, my lawyer advised me to inform my wife through the app, emphasizing that this step was solely for the benefit of the girls and to prevent any misunderstandings. I followed this advice. She'd been pleading to meet with me and spend time with the girls, and our daughters had also been earnestly requesting to see their mother. For the sake of my daughters, I set aside my pride and we arranged a meeting. The encounter was rather awkward. My soon-to-be ex-wife warmly hugged our daughters, but then unexpectedly attempted to hug and kiss me. I chose to sidestep her advances, and instead greeted my mother-in-law with a hug. My soon-to-be ex attempted to maintain the appearance of a husband and wife dynamic, engaging in conversation with me. I responded with brief yes and no answers and proceeded to assist my mother-in-law in completing dinner preparations and cleanup. My mother-in-law, who's quite religious, expressed a desire to lead a prayer at the dinner table, positioning herself next to me. I held my daughter's hand during the prayer, and my soon-to-be ex-wife attempted to reach for mine. However, I withdrew my hand. It might appear petty, but I'm simply not comfortable with her touching me. I identify as an atheist, but out of respect for my mother-in-law's beliefs, I went along with the prayer. Dinner proceeded smoothly. My soon-to-be ex-wife continued to act as though we still together, discussing plans for Christmas and vacations as if we were still a couple. I suppose she's hoping for us to do things as a family. When she started bringing up these topics, I began to regret my decision to attend the gathering. After we finished dinner, I promptly got up, took care of my daughters, and helped with the dishes. I was eager to leave at that point. My daughters expressed a desire to watch a movie with their mother, something we used to do together. I agreed to it and let them in. However, my soon-to-be ex-wife attempted to cuddle next to me on the couch, prompting me to move to a chair. Throughout the evening, my mother-in-law was visibly upset with my soon-to-be ex for her behavior. When the movie was over, we started getting ready to leave. My daughters fell asleep, and I carefully carried them to the car. After a short stop, my soon-to-be ex-wife came up to me with tears in her eyes, begging to mend our relationship and expressing her desire to reunite as a family. She was very apologetic about everything that had happened. Before I could respond, the mother-in-law decisively grabbed her daughter by the hair, pulling her away with force. She wished me good night and then continued her conversation with her daughter in raised tones. I immediately informed my attorney of the situation. My soon-to-be ex-wife continues to call and plead for us to work things out, but I've decided to keep my distance. I've left her messages on read, and I've made it clear that I will only discuss matters related to our daughters. I suspect they may want the same for Christmas, but I'm uncertain whether I can or if it's the right thing to do. I'll once again consult with my lawyer about this situation. She's update 4. I'll keep this brief, but the situation has taken a turn for the worse regarding my daughters. They had 2 therapy sessions this week, with the first one going well. My daughters emerged from the first session appearing noticeably more at ease and calmer than usual. I had a conversation with the therapist afterward, and she seemed to have a good understanding of my girls. Therefore, Tani. Essentially, the therapist explained in age-appropriate terms that the reason for our separation was because their mother had cheated, had an affair, and betrayed me. I assumed this conversation would happen sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. When I went to pick up my girls, it turned into a flood of tears. They snuggled up to me, hugging me, and through their tears, repeatedly telling me how much they loved me. It felt good, but I couldn't help but feel sad about my daughter's situation. I asked the therapist about her decision to disclose details to my daughters. She explained that the girls already knew about our separation and had noticed my apparent coldness and unkindness toward their mother. She emphasized that my daughters were intelligent and understood my behavior and how I treated their mother. My daughters were curious about the reasons for our separation, and she tried to handle the conversation sensitively. However, the therapist insisted that if we did not tell the truth, the girls would not make much progress in therapy. I won't go into specific details about what the therapist shared with them, but it was conveyed to them in an age-appropriate manner. They now have an age-appropriate understanding that their mother was unfaithful. I believe my older child can handle this information better, but I'm concerned about my younger daughter. When we arrived home, my girls clung to me, and they were in tears throughout the entire night. I decided to order their favorite food for dinner and set up their favorite movies in my bedroom. We spent the night lying there together, and eventually they fell asleep. Later, when I went to the bathroom, I couldn't hold back my own tears, and I let them flow. My soon-to-be ex-wife seems oblivious to the pain our girls are going through. I'm not sure how I'm going to navigate this difficult situation. The therapist suggested that we could consider medication for the girls temporarily to help them adjust to the new reality. I firmly rejected the idea of medication, and the therapist was sympathetic and explained that this was only an option, emphasizing that I would not force medication on them. It is important to note that she could not prescribe the medication herself. She noted that to take this step, we would need to consult with their primary care physician, who might diagnose my girls with a condition that might require medication. I prefer to address my daughter's emotions in a healthy and non-medicated manner. As for Christmas, I am now concerned about how my daughters feel towards their mother. My oldest daughter expressed that she never wants to see her mom again. My youngest tends to follow her older sister's lead. I was taken aback by their strong reaction, and I gently told them, "You may be angry, but I don't think you truly hate her. Your mother loves and cares about you, even if things are difficult right now." My oldest replied no, and then sought solace in my arms until she fell asleep, followed by my youngest. It's a challenging situation, and it seems this is the reality I must face now. Thank you for listening to this story to the end, and if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story.